With the ninth pick in the NFL draft, the Chicago Bears will select Taylor Swift. I kid, we're not taking Taylor Swift, but the important thing is we have three different sets of players that could be available around nine. Now, I've listed them out for you, and I've broken them down to offensive skill, offensive line, and defenders to give you just an idea of what it would look like and the decisions that are being made by the Chicago Bears before we get to this draft. Now, if you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell to be notified of future content. And let's remember, we don't know exactly what they're going to choose. I do have my preferences, and I do have preferences in every single category. You might like some of them, you might not like some of them. For brevity's sake here, I did remove the quarterbacks because it's obvious at this point that it's Caleb Williams. And I also removed Marvin Harrison Jr. from this discussion because there is no shot at Marvin Harrison Jr. being available at the number 9 position at this point. There's too much rumors, too much going on that he will be the number 4 selection or the number 5 selection, no matter what, and that he's going to be the first receiver taken off of the board. So we're going to eliminate him, and we're going to say there is a scenario in which there is potentially a cascade of available players coming. If the first 4 selections or the first 3 selections are going to be quarterbacks, the fourth or the fifth another quarterback, then you got 4 quarterbacks, then you have 4 more selections. But by my count, you have about 13 available players for the Chicago Bears. Now, the Chicago Bears are going to be a little bit robust, and I'm sure they're going to move around quite a bit when they make this decision. So I'm going to break this down for you, and I laid it out on a chart to give you an idea of what we're looking at, and I'm going to tell you what I think of each one of the categories. So without further ado, let's get it. All right, guys. So I hope that I've simplified this enough. Basically, wide receiver, tight end becomes what we're choosing. Now, at the 9 position, you have Malik Neighbors possibly falling down there if something wild happens. Roma Dunze uh, possibly falling down there. Brock Bowers most probably will be there until the 10 selection. In the offensive line, you've got Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, you've got Troy Fatanu, Talise Fuaga, and JC Latham. Depending on who you ask, they're going to lay out as they'll have different rankings based on different protocols. But defenders, we've got Dallas Turner, Latu Latu, Jared Verse, Chop Robinson, and Byron Murphy. Now, because there's rumors about Byron Murphy, I put him on the list. I don't think there's a real chance that we're going to take Byron Murphy. In fact, if you look at him based on most of the analysis, they're putting him around the 17th, 18th, 19th best player. And you don't reach down to number 18 when you're at number 9, not unless you have a very specific need. So I think he's eliminated by process. But Malik Neighbors, there's a very low possibility for him to be there. Roma Dunze, a little bit higher, and Brock Bowers also going to be there. So the question that you have to ask yourself as Ryan polls is, what is it that you need the most? There's going to be a debate to be had over what is the most pressing need. Do we need another wide receiver? I think so, yes. I think we're desperate, in fact, for a wide receiver. And Keenan Allen is only here for 1 year. Now, the possibility certainly exists that we could sign him to an extension and he could have a long twilight of his career, but he's not going to get better. We've already seen the top. And the question is, how slowly can that downside be maintained? So we've got a great player, but for how long becomes the question. Now, that means that we do need a wide receiver. Do you go into this draft and take one of these 3 guys? And the odds are you really have to do that. That makes the most sense because what you're trying to do is your best to help your rookie quarterback acclimate himself to the NFL as best you may. You also have Brock Bowers in the mix. Brock Bowers probably the best quarterback, best tight end, excuse me, since Travis Kelce. So it would do you justice for a team to have, but you have Gerald Everett for 2 years, and you've got Cole Kmet for another several years. So you actually have a pretty decent tight end staff. You're not as pressed for it. Now, the argument for that is that Shane Waldron likes to run a 3 tight end set, but you can't run 3 tight end sets for every down. Can you? Can you? I mean, maybe you can, but it would be an outlier in today's NFL. If available, I think the likely selection here becomes Roma Dunzi. I think that he becomes the prohibitive favorite here to be selected with the number 9 pick. But let's move on to the offensive line. We have to make an argument for the offensive line. And when we're doing this, we're looking in each one of these at offensive tackle. Joe Alt rates out pretty highly. We like him. We think he's going to be a star. However, we've got Darnell Wright, who as a rookie was one of, until towards the end of the year, had a little bit of a drop off, but was one of the players, one of the best offensive players in the league. And in year two, he should level up a little bit, become a lot better. Then you have Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones, been here for a year extra, 2 years extra, and heading into this year, I think that he's got an opportunity to continue to grow and continue to improve. And the team seems to be high on him. Now, my opinion is that he's not, there's no need to replace Braxton Jones, but you might have a different choice. And if you do, Joe Alt would be a fine pick. So would Olu Fashanu or Troy Fatanu. Talise Fuaga rates out more as a guard in the future, most probably. JC Latham, big, strong guy out of Alabama, but we're reaching down. The prohibitive favorite here for the offensive line is going to be Joe Alt, and as a stretch, Olu Fashanu. So for the moment, Roma Dunzi in the offensive skill category, Joe Alt in the offensive line category. There is a very small chance that Joe Alt is available at number 9. Now, the last one is the defenders. And at that position, you have Dallas Turner as an edge rusher, Latu Latu, also an edge rusher, Jared Verse, also an edge rusher, Chop Robinson, also an edge rusher, and then Byron Murphy, defensive tackle. So it is entirely possible that all of these guys are available at the number 9 selection. Dallas Turner most likely will be picked around 7 or 8. In most mocks, you will see him go a little bit early as the first or the second defender taken overall. So if that's the case, then we have to look at Luatu Latu or Jared Verse or Chop Robinson. And here's the thing with that. Not that they're interchangeable, but that would be an argument to move down in this draft if those are your available guys. So what I want to do is I want to say that Roma Dunzi and Joe Alt are the most likely guys, and if available at that position, and Roma Dunzi, Joe Alt, and Brock Bowers are not available, then it becomes Dallas Turner. But at this point, the difference between Dallas Turner and Latu or Verse or Chop Robinson becomes a little more minimal. And I think that if that is the case, if I'm Ryan Poles, I'm looking to trade down. But I don't think there's any chance because of math that they're not available. So the question then becomes, what do we do? Does it become Roma Dunzi or does it become Joe Alt? And that's really the selection. Now, what I did before is I explained to you that you want to take care of your star, your potential Hall of Fame future guy. The Bears have famously ruined a lot of quarterbacks over the years. So, what are the Bears going to do a little bit differently? Well, it started with the trade for Keenan Allen, the move for DeAndre Swift, the changing of the guard at the center position for Ryan Bates or Coleman Shelton. We're still unsure about that. And then we also picked up Gerald Everett on a 2-year deal. Now, those pieces being in place, we've given this team something that the previous quarterback and previous regime simply did not have, and that is a lot of options to play with. Now, the question is, are they enough? In today's NFL, they're not. So the question is, do you take a skill player or do you take a line player? Now, if you believe that football is won in the trenches, then your first guess, your first decision, your first pick is going to be Joe Alt, and you're going to be looking to shore up a line that, in my opinion, is already kind of shored up. And we can also point out the same line that a lot of people spent a lot of time telling you wasn't giving Justin Fields enough time is the same line that we're bringing back virtually. The difference is, hopefully, uh, Braxton Jones is going to be healthy, and Larry Borum is not going to be the first off the bench and the starter in that case. Larry Borum did not have a great year, did not account for himself very well. He had good plays, but overall, He allowed a lot of people to get by. In fact, some of these guys did allow some people to get by. Now, the problem with that is a predictable offense and a quarterback who held on to the ball for far too long. 3.23 seconds was the number on Justin Fields. So if you tell me that the offensive line needs to improve, I agree with you. But getting a quarterback who makes quicker decisions and reads the field a lot better already handles that. That already cuts down, I want to say, a half second. That half second is the difference between this offensive line being okay and this offensive line being really good. It's the quarterback play, the ability of that person to create a level of respect for the defense that they have to guard. You could cheat on Justin Fields. You could cheat a linebacker. You could cheat a safety. You could push the line a little bit, and Justin Fields just could not find the open man. That problem does not exist with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is built for this type of moment. So I would say that for me, the offensive line should be out. If at 9, I have a choice between Rome Odunze and Joe Alt, there's no chance that I would take Joe Alt. Not that I don't think that he's the best offensive tackle in the draft, but I already have faith that we fix the offensive line by virtue of bringing in a quarterback who will make this offensive line better and not worse. So, Joe Alt, we're going to pass on that one. So that leaves us with Roma Dunzi and Brock Bowers and some defenders. Now, the reason that I would like to see a defender is I want to see a good bookend to go with Montez Sweat. I want to see two guys collapse the pocket, rush the pocket up in, and when the quarterback steps into the pocket, then Andrew Billings and Gervon Dexter just eat this guy up, and we get sack after sack after sack after sack. We hurry this guy. We create frantic defensive movements, and to have a good edge rusher would do that. However, I want to say this: this was the number one rushing defense last year, and we have stood almost pat, other than Kevin Byard, we have stood pat with what we are doing on this team. And the team ranked as the number one rushing defense. And number 25 is pass defense. So the secondary, despite that we really like Jaquan Brisker, despite that we really love Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon and Terrell Smith, despite that we had a fantastic team, despite the fact that we had Jack Sanborn, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards doing a decent job, a really good job, in fact. Despite all of that, we gave up a lot of yards in the air. So the question is, does that get better? And I want to say this. If you go back and you watch the last 6 games or so, then what you will see is a development, an interesting development. And that development was DeMarcus Walker. DeMarcus Walker started to, I want to say that he had 4 sacks and 6 hurries in the last 3 games on quarterbacks. And that's not nothing. That is not nothing by a long stretch. In fact, these are pretty decent numbers. And when you go back and you look at his backup, Dominique Robinson, I don't like him. I don't think that he's a great edge rusher. However, number one rushing defense. Now, we're going to have to stop the pass. How do we stop the pass? Well, the secondary has to play better. That's what this comes down to. If the secondary can play better and not give open reads to these quarterbacks, then that defensive line has a chance to collapse the pocket and start to gain some sacks. And I want to say it's not totally on the secondary that the defense was not getting those sacks. It is certainly on that defensive line to get in there and to start to hurry. But with Montez Sweat being double teamed on a regular basis, Gervon Dexter, Andrew Billings, DeMarcus Walker, they're going to have to step up. So if I'm making a choice, then my choice is going to be let's just stop with the defenders for the moment. Let's focus on what this team needs more than anything else. What this team needs more than anything else is Rome Odunze. I say that with you knowing, or at least if you've watched me before, my generational talent in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm willing to forego that and willing to say, hey, look, we're just not going to find a good way or a decent way. We're too far down the Caleb Williams rabbit hole, if you will, to make this happen. If we traded up, it would cost just too much. I just don't see it. I can make it happen in a draft. I can show you how to make it happen in a draft, but I don't agree with it as a fundamental concept here. So that leaves us with this. Malik Neighbors, most likely gone. Rome Odunze possibly available, and we have to take him. Brock Bowers, if Rome is not available, Brock Bowers becomes that guy, and we just change the complexity of the offense a little bit, and we hope that Tyler Scott steps up big time. So it's going to be my estimation here that either Rome Odunze or Brock Bowers is the guy that's going to be taken with the number 9 selection. There are still plenty of different variables. There are a lot of things to consider. But if you take a step back, like I've had to do over and over again, and you just take a deep breath and you just kind of look at this and you be honest with what you, not with what you think, but what you see the Bears doing. What you see, if you look at this, the answer is very simple. They're not going to give Caleb Williams a chance to fail. They're not going to leave him exposed. They're not going to put him in a position where he cannot have success. They're going to surround him with the most elite offensive skill weapons that they possibly can, and they're going to let him do his thing. And they're going to trust that all of the moves that they've made on the offensive line, all of the backups that they've brought in, all of these people are going to be able to coalesce into a very good offensive line. And I might add, because it's important, at the end of this offensive line that gets vilified sometimes, that gets talked about sometimes, was the number one rushing offensive line as well as having the number one rushing defense. So at the end of this, I just want to say, guys, I think that the choice is clear. I think that there's no chance of a move otherwise. I think the number 9 selection is either Rome Odunze or Brock Bowers, and I don't even think it's a debate at this point. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. We can agree to disagree on a lot of this. I know some of you are going to take Joe Alt no matter what. I know some of you are going to be looking at Dallas Turner no matter what. I, until a couple days ago, was looking at Dallas Turner. Until a couple days ago, preferred Jared Verse. I also did a few drafts where I took Joe Alt. I did all of this already. And every time I do this, I don't feel right. The only thing that makes me feel right is Marvin Harrison Jr. And if I can't get Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze. And if I can't get Rome Odunze, what makes me feel right at this point? Brock Bowers. Why? Because Caleb needs weapons. We need him to be what we've always wanted, and that is an elite level quarterback that makes all the quarterback throws. Again, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's all bear down, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.